Hi, it's Ask Dr. Lori Live. I'm Dr. Lori. It's good to see all of you. Thanks for being with me. I'm taking your questions tonight. And if you'll type in, of course, into the comments, into the chat, what your questions are, make your questions the kind of questions that could help everybody. You know, Dr. Lori, do you know Joe Schmo artist? Is not a question that's going to help everybody. So, you know, make sure that you ask those kinds of questions. I'll answer any of your questions. I'll answer personal questions. I'll answer art, antiques, collectibles questions, whatever you want to do. And I'm going to remind you again to sign up for the newsletter. Why do I want you to sign up for the newsletter? Because it's going to help you. And it's going to help you with tips, with information about, of course, what's happening and, you know, things like my class schedules and such. I want you to make sure that you do sign up for the newsletter. It's free. It goes right to your inbox. You don't have to do anything after you sign up. It's right there in the free tab, which is the thumbs up tab on the website, drloriv.com. So I hope you'll check that out. And for those of you who are trying to find out about classes, for example, you can do that again at the website. It's easy. You know, it's fun. It's easy. $39. Hey, I want to hear those questions, so get those in. It's $39 at the time of this taping for 2 hours with an appraisal. A lot of people, a lot of fun. We learn from everybody else, and I'm there, of course, to do the appraisals and to teach you stuff, so how to tell and stuff. The other thing I want to remind you is when you're on the website, you know, it's very easy for you to actually set a save to calendar for my events or for classes or for other things when I'm going to go live, for example. So, you know, you can do that on the website. It says right there, you know, save to calendar. All you have to do is click it and it'll go right into the calendar on your phone. It'll give you a reminder. So we have that on our website to make it easier for you, So check that out. Is a black light a valid way to identify pearls? People like black lights. I have to tell you, with years and years and years in museums, I've used black lights, but I don't think black lights are so fantastic, but everybody likes them. I like them for certain things. I like them for identifying certain types of glass. I like them for, in fact, understanding the luster, but light, very, very, you know, that kind of light, intense light can actually do a lot of damage to a lot of things. So I would say when it comes to works of art, if you're going to show a black light to try to see if you see underpainting on an oil painting, right? Underpainting is when they paint over something that wasn't originally there and you can see where the restoration happened or if something was ripped or torn. You don't want to do it for too long because black light, of course, can have an impact as well. But for pearls, it can help you to identify luster and consistency of luster. Some people like that. They like to be sure, right? And it's one of the ways that some people learn, you know, before they really can do it automatically from their eye after looking at a lot of pearls, they like to use a black light. I think it's best really for uranium glass and sometimes for crystal, but black light can be a very helpful tool. I do have a recommended black light that I like on the specials and shop page, and I get compensation when you purchase one of our products from there. But that's a very good question. If you use it for identifying pearls, just be careful and don't have it there a long time. You know, it's not like a laser beam that you got to worry about it, but you know, not for a long time do you want the black light on really any object. So that's great. Thanks. Nice question. That helps everybody. That's what I mean. How to identify Murano glass if there are no labels and signatures? A million ways, right? So there are certain ones. Some people will identify Murano glass by specific artisans, right? So specific designers or makers, right? They have a certain style that they always use, or a certain form that they always use, or a certain color palette that they use, that kind of thing. That's one of the ways people do it. They also do it by understanding how the base looks. A lot of people will do it by that base. There's a pretty thick base at the bottom of some of those blown glass figural pieces, for example. The Millefiore is one of the ways that a lot of people will identify Murano, but it's not the only way. There are a lot of other people who follow or, of course, copy Murano Millefiore, so that's not a telltale sign. But I have done so many videos on Murano glass, so many of these where I've talked to you about Murano glass. There's a lot to it. And then, again, those labels are very important because there are a lot of knockoffs. Even the Italians are knocking off Murano. So you've got to be careful and not just think that, oh, I've got a piece of Italian glass. I know it's Italian glass. It must be Murano. It may not be Murano. So be aware of that too. Yeah. Good question. I know you all love Murano glass. Chris, thank you very much. Chris is a long-time supporter of the channel and loves to collect all kinds of stuff. I have a large Millefiore, large paperweight, signed Bullock's Wilshire 74. I'm confused. Did Bullock's make Millefiore paperweights? Here's the thing. A lot of artisans who are known for other things will try their hand at Latticino or Millefiore, right? Which are two of the glass blowing designs that are very popular. So it's very possible that you would see that. Now, here's the other thing that I want you to understand about this. Sometimes you will see people see paperweights that are mass produced elsewhere, not, in Venice, Italy, for example, or not in Murano. And they will actually put names on them just to have a signature. It is very easy to engrave a signature on a piece of glass. Do you know how many pieces of Tiffany, Louis Comfort Tiffany Favril glass that I saw that was basically fake, that signature was fake? The piece looked pretty good, but the signature was fake. So don't only go by signatures. You have to unite the two. And this is why this is a good question. And thank you for your super chat, super sticker too. That's a good question. So yes, sometimes artists who are known for other designs will try their hand at the rods. Of course, those famous rods that create Millefiore glass blowing. And sometimes you really have to look for, the characteristic and mature style of that artist. That's usually going to be where more value is, right? When an artist strays, I don't care if he's a painter, I don't care if he's a sculptor, I don't care if he's a glass blower, I don't care if jewelry designer. When an artist strays from what we know that artist's work to look like, we usually don't see the same quality or value. That doesn't mean artists can't try something new, but usually we like to see certain things. When you see I don't know, I got to think of something. You see a Jackson Pollock, you don't want a Jackson Pollock to give you a realistic portrait of me. You want Jackson Pollock to do the drip paintings. That's what you want. That's what he's known for. That's where the big values will be. Hope that helps. Thanks, Chris. Good to see you. Hey, Dr. Laurie, is Charel a good name for costume jewelry? I have a necklace marked Charel with a copyright mark. Well, is the R Charel or is the R Chanel? So we got to see whether or not the R is an N. You got to get out the loop. Here's the loop, right? Got to get out the loop and you're going to have to take a look. Sometimes they will change a letter. Some people will actually see that. And actually, just recently, I wrote an article for the website because I add all those research articles for the website, how to tell a fake Chanel. So when it comes to costume jewelry, there's an article up that actually is all about what are the things you look for if you're looking to understand if you have a fake or a not a fake or the real thing when it comes to Chanel. So yeah, there are these names that sound like these famous names. There's a lot of that kind of going on. The other thing it might be that the piece is dirty. It might be that the actual logo plate has been scratched or abraded in some way. So maybe a part of that N is gone. So yeah, there's a lot to it. Costume jewelry, a million costume jewelry designer names. I've told you about a lot of them, and I'll continue to tell you more as we go through. And that's true. So that's great. So I hope your Saturday was good. So does an artist not have to be dead to be wealthy? An artist does not have to be dead to be wealthy. I don't know. I guess if the artist is dead, I don't really think he cares if he's wealthy or not. Maybe your question is, does an artist's work increase in value once he's dead? I don't know what your question is. Heidi, you need to rephrase the question because I don't get it. So an artist does not have to be dead to be wealthy. Well, I know a lot of artists who are alive who are wealthy. Yeah. I know a lot of artists who are alive who are poor. I mean, so I don't know if I'm getting your question, sweetheart. Write the question a little clearer or add something to it so I can figure that out. So Saturday, I was thinking about Saturday. People always say, what'd you do today? I did video calls. I found some real bargains. Yeah, video calls. A couple folks had some great real bargains that I'll share with you, of course, on the videos. And I know you guys love the real bargains. I do too. It shows you when you guys are succeeding, which is so cool. And on Saturdays, I don't know what you guys do, but I have a couple of things that I've done since I was in college, probably before college even, where I used to always call my mom on Saturday morning. Saturday morning was got to check in with the fam, that kind of thing. And my sisters have now taken that spot for me. So, I get in touch with them on Saturday mornings and see what's going on and how was the week and what's going on. And usually I talk to them throughout the week, but, Saturday mornings I usually do that. Do you guys do that? Do you have somebody in your life who you always talk to at a certain time? I have another sister I talk to every single day, all the time, constantly talking. She's constantly on the phone. So, anyway. I love Dr. Lori Live. I love you too. I love you too. Yeah, a lot of fun. Nice to see you. So yeah, I wonder what you guys are doing. And then I'm trying to find stuff to watch on, I don't know if it's called television. I don't know if it's streaming or this thing or that thing. I have all of these things that you could choose from. You know how this goes. And YouTube and everything. And I'm missing Ted Lasso. I miss him. I want to know, where is Jason Sudeikis? What is he doing? I want him to come back and do something. I want like 10 more seasons. It was just a happy show. And it's nice to have Happy. We needed Happy. But I'm looking for Jason Sudeikis, not for myself, but just for the shows. So anyway, I hope that those people are coming back. That's what I was. Oh, hi, Don. Okay, so Goodwill.com had what they said was a color-changing sapphire. How do I know if it's natural or lab created? Okay, well, first of all, you want to ask them, do they have a GIA certification on this thing that they are promoting as something? And that's true of anybody. I don't care if it's shopgoodwill.com. I don't care if it's eBay or a seller on any other site. You have to say, basically, I'd like to know, how do you know if it's a color-changing sapphire? How does it change? Where's the sapphire from? Is it lab created? And now what's happening on many of the big sites is you're going to have to give this information. So if you were selling this on a site, for example, on eBay, and if you're watching my thrifting news videos where I'm telling you about the news that's happening, one of the things that's happening is there's going to be, criteria that's going to have to be met if you are going to try to sell a piece like that, which is going to really protect buyers. So good question. Good question. You got to ask them. You've got to have a conversation. I say this a lot, and I'm developing a class about, buying and selling for all of you because you all asked for it. And one of the things was, taking the time to actually have a conversation with you as the potential buyer with the seller. Hey, I want to know this. Can you find this out? Politely, but these are not bad questions. You have to know what you're basically getting. They want you to know what you're getting because they want you to get it and be happy with it and keep it and not, of course, do anything with respect to you're paying that bill. They want you to pay the bill and go forward and do that. So good question, though. I would say inquire with them, and typically, all of these people do get back in touch. They're a color changing lab created. Now, some of them on shopgoodwill.com and on lots of these selling sites will say this was reviewed by a GIA certified gemologist, and some won't. But you've got to ask that, especially if the numbers are big. You know what I mean? If it's a lot of money, you got to be asking that thing. And speaking about pieces like this, the other in a recent video, I was wearing a Venetian. We were talking about Murano, and now we're talking about jewelry. I was wearing a Venetian glass ring, and a lot of you asked to see it. And I've put it on Facebook and Instagram. So a lot of you don't know that you could be following us on Instagram and Facebook. So I put the ring there so you can all see it, so you can get a sense of it. Oh, there's a picture too. But you can all take a good look at it and see what everybody has to say about it. A lot of cool comments about it. I'm sorry that my nail polish is chipping there. I put on some glitter. I was with the 4-year-old set when they chose glitter for me. So there you go. But Murano glass rings. A lot of Murano jewelry is really coming of age as well. A lot of people like it, and it is pretty valuable. Is there value in lab created? Yes, there's value in lab created. Thank you, Dan. Yeah, lab created stones can and have been around a long time and can be valuable, sure. Are they as valuable as that fantastic blue cashmere sapphire? No. But again, that's naturally developed. But then you can see that lab created pieces can be very, very good and can be very popular. So, that's great. Any market for old parlor lamps have painted bread and marble. Okay. Yeah, Ashley, people do like lamps in general. I mean, people like lamps in general. I think that the sort of HGTV people, the interior designers and a lot of those shows have really made lamps, they've kind of pumped them up. In the decorative arts, right, or furniture, clocks, lamps, accessories, in the decorative arts, it used to be called the minor arts a million years ago in art history, lamps moved into a category that used to be reserved for clocks. And they moved up like in interest, in value, in presentation, because now a lot of those big lamps, especially from the 1960s, some of the Murano lamps that I've focused on here with real bargains, for example, have gone for really high values. And lamps, in fact, like this. So old parlor lamps, yes, they don't have the same interest that they had, I want to say, in like 2010, but you won't get the same value as you might have gotten before. But again, lamps in general are seeing an uptick. And that's why a lot of people are talking about lamps and talking about expertise in lamps and this kind of thing. So lamps actually are pretty interesting, and a lot of people do collect them. And of course, if you have 2 of these lamps, it's always better than 1 of these lamps. But yeah, you'll do fine with that lamp. You would have been better if you sold it maybe, as much as 10, but at least 5 years ago. But I think, around holiday time, you'll probably do fine moving that lamp, or anytime when we're interested in being in the house, right? So that's not usually summertime. That's usually like November through March or April, right? Then once the weather gets good, at least in North America, you're going to see, of course, less interest in decorative arts. So good question. Thank you all for your questions. I appreciate all of them. So, and super chats and super stickers, of course, are open. They help to support the channel. So, it's funny because the Murano glass ring goes up, and I try to keep up with putting these pictures of other things in my story. If you're looking at my story, a lot of you have commented that I put a lot of my cooking and food and stuff. I try stuff, I try to do something other than, my job all the time. I love my job, but I try to do other things. And, I put a lot of that also in my story and on Instagram and other places. A lot of you are like, oh, I want to see this. I want to see that. So check that out too. They're a lot of fun. Are there specific Pyrex patterns that I should be on the lookout for that resell for a high price? Yeah, this is a good question. There are a lot of Pyrex patterns that a lot of people look for. They look for the Marjolaine pattern, which is the one that has the little mushrooms on it. It's sort of like that French cooking pattern. That was really popular when those Julia Child movies were coming out, like one after the other, that kind of thing. Actually, just I praised the Julia Child 2 volumes, The Art of French Cooking. A lot, thousands of dollars for that book. So if you see that in a thrift store, pick it up. The 2 books. But the other thing, you should look for that pattern. The blue, the traditional cornflower blue. People look for that. I also saw one in a video call recently that was a pattern that didn't make it, which was really interesting. A prototype pattern, which was small squares of yellow, little different patterns of lighter yellow, cornrod yellow, goldenrod yellow, and it was all little, little squares all the way around the Pyrex. That was pretty interesting too. And if you didn't see my web article on it on drloriv.com, Pyrex, collectible Pyrex, web article on it, if you go to the research page or go to the little magnifying glass at the top and search, click on that, the search will open. And all you have to do, it's easy. And all you have to do near that little magnifying glass where it says search, type in Pyrex, and that article and all the videos will come up. So you'll see those. And I outline which patterns are more valuable, more interesting. Particularly now, resale market for Pyrex is really pretty good. Even what I call boring Pyrex, which is still fantastic, which is the clear glass pieces. I'm sorry, I have a white French that I use all the time. If I'm putting something together for the oven, it's going into that Pyrex. Okay, so there's my, for Pyrex, and I do not get a kickback for talking about Pyrex. But I will say that article is going to give you, because I give you a lot of articles on my research pages that are lists and information that you can use. Being in media for so long, it's called news you can use. So information that you want, not all this other flowery stuff. Thank you. My website is a treasure. A lot of you are asking about downsizing or trying to help mom or grandmom to get rid of some of the stuff because they're a generation of keepers kind of thing. I talk about that on the blog. A lot of you will go and see it right at the top and it says, blog. So, you can just click on that and you get the blog. But the newsletter has a lot of information too. So, blah, blah, blah. Thank you very much. I'm glad you enjoy it. Use it. That's what it's there for. So thank you very much, Laura. I appreciate that. Anytime that you can support us, we appreciate it. You can do it in different ways. You can buy a t-shirt. You can do that on YouTube. You can get a mug. You can do whatever you want. And there's all kinds of things. What's the most expensive type of jade? Well, there are a lot of expensive types of jade. It depends, right? So a lavender jade is beautiful. And then you've got spinach jade. There's a lot of different types of jade. Sometimes it will, and the type of jade can be expensive, but it's also the object that jade is, right? So, the $1 million pieces, the hundreds of thousands of dollar pieces are oftentimes, of course, carved, beautiful, intricate, cultural items that were in, of course, emperors' palaces and such. So that's a good question. Now, remember, Jade also is very popular, not only for its vast color, right? It's got a lot of different colors of jade, but also, of course, for its durability and also for the way in which it related to Asian culture. So you want to understand a little bit about what jade means to, of course, that particular culture. Good question. There's not one most expensive. It depends on based on those objects made of jade. So people always say you've got to look for one particular type of material. That's not always the case. Have you ever been asked to appraise an article that you were certain was something in your house or a relative's house growing up? Oh, have I appraised something that yeah, there's a cookie jar that I appraised. There's a cookie jar. It's a red cookie jar, and it's Humpty Dumpty. Was in my mother's house forever. I was asked to appraise it, and ours was the red version, and the person who asked me to appraise theirs was a yellow version. So I have appraised an article that was in, oh, you mean that the actual article that person had, you believe was in my relative's house at one point, and now it somehow got to this person? I've never had that, but I have appraised an object or many objects that my family also had. I hope I answered your question. I think I answered your question. But were you looking for an object and I was asked to appraise something that had been lost or taken from us or from me or something? No, that never happened. And if you know something I don't know, let me know. I don't know. Yes. Martha Stewart just had a big estate sale and I talked about it if you watch my thrifting news. She also put the stuff that I would say is the kind of the not so great stuff onto an online auction, which took place on June 15th. I dated us, but on June 15th. And that went on a regular online auction, and people could buy things like DVDs and stuff like that from her home too, to raise a little bit more money. She raised money for an adult living center, basically like an assisted living center in New York City, the Martha Stewart Center. It may be called the Stewart Center, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's the Martha Stewart Center. So that was wonderful. She did that for charity, and and they of course taped it for ABC too. So yeah, that's great. She had a big estate sale, but a big yard sale, tag sale. We New Englanders call it tag sales. The thing about it and what I thought about it was some of the stuff was really lovely, and you could see that some of the stuff was from other places that she had gotten when she was a caterer kind of stuff. Some of the stuff was the produced items, mass-produced items that she got that were licensed with her name. Remember, of course, she had a lot of home design stuff in Macy's, and she also sold it through Kmart and other places. Looked like some of that stuff was available, but some people just said, I want a piece of Martha. I want something that was Martha, right? That came out of her home or that she stored for a long time. I think everybody had at least one issue of Martha Stewart Living magazine, right? So there you go. Yeah, she had a big tag sale. A lot of people having great tag sales. There was an estate sale for Alex Trebek. There was an estate sale for Sheryl Crow, the singer. There was an estate sale for a lot of people. A lot of people having estate sales. Okay, so usually I was led to believe that artists were poor, lived in pottery, but after their death, their art becomes valuable. Does that hold true today? Thank you for rephrasing this question. This is a help. Do they have to die before their art becomes valuable? No. Here's what happens. Basically, everybody has thought for a long, long time, artists' works are, of course, artists are going to struggle. Some artists are going to struggle. Some artists are not going to struggle, just like some dentists struggle and some dentists don't struggle. It all depends, okay? Depends on, who's in your circle, who's your dealer, who's helping you, who's not, how good are you at it, whatever it might be. Exhibition record, scholarship record, all of these kinds of things. Are you in obscurity forever? And then, oh, boom, you die, and all of a sudden, all the values go up. Not always true, and not true for this reason. It's not only about their death because they can't produce anymore. That's what everybody said. Oh, well, Van Gogh's dead now, so you know what? He didn't have a great, successful life during his lifespan, didn't have a great, successful career during his lifespan, so once he died, all the value automatically goes up. There's no more production, so what happens to each piece, if they're valuable in the first place, is that each piece, in fact, you're only going to get one of those because now he's dead and he's not making any more Starry, Starry Nights for you, right? So, of course, the value goes up. But that has to happen for a couple of different reasons, and it doesn't happen just because they're dead. It happens because scholars note the pieces. They do something to move art history forward, Okay. So they do something that's different in the history of art. That's what we look for. They have a cultural or historical significance to their art. Their art speaks to something that's happening in that particular time. You're going to see so much kind of interesting art coming out of this whole pandemic, right? That people are going to say, oh, I didn't even think of that. Cultural or historical impact. That's going to increase value. Then you have to have an exhibition record. Then you have to have scholars to be interested in the piece, right? And write about the piece and note the piece, right? So a lot of things have to happen for an artist's work to increase in value. I talk about the markets a lot. It's one of the things that I also talk about on my website articles as well as in my classes. But a very good question. It's not automatic. They're dead. Everything gets valuable. That's not true. What happens is they're dead, so they can't produce anymore. So now pieces that are already out there become rarer. So I hope that helps. Good question. Thanks for rephrasing it. Murano glass pin valuable? Yes. You don't like that because you're like, wait a minute, well, which Murano glass pin? What Murano glass pin? If it's Murano, it's glass. You don't want a Murano ceramic pin. That's not going to be valuable because we like Murano equals glass. That's what we like. And I want it to be millefiore. I want it to be multicolored. I want it to be hand blown. And I want it to be significant in size. I want it even to be done by one of the masters, right? Then it's going to be really valuable. So we know it has value. Everything has value, right? But we also know some of the attributes that you're talking about, name brand, correct material, glass, right? And a piece of adornment, jewelry, pin. It's going to be valuable. Now, how valuable? That's a different story. Different question, different story. So that was a concise question with a not concise answer. Are certain types of paper a print is made on worth more? Yes, yes. Brown pulp paper from the 1700s or the 1800s. Okay. There's something called laid paper. There's also mulberry paper. There's rice paper. There's different types of paper. So for example, Japanese woodblocks prints, which are valuable across the board. Japanese woodblock prints, because the process of paper making is so important to the Japanese, can be more valuable. The print itself, same image, can be more valuable if it's on a different piece of paper. A Rembrandt print that's on laid paper. And I've talked about this on Real Bargains. Real Bargains, when a guy went to a yard sale and he's digging through all of these newspapers and he finds a Rembrandt, I got to watch that video. And he ends up with a very valuable piece. That piece was on a specific type of paper, right? So understanding what paper looks like by century or decade is going to help you. And that will impact how important or expensive a print is. Here's an example. Rembrandt prints are still being printed today from plates. So it's 2022, whatever the year is, right? It's the early 2020s. And Rembrandt, who was active in the 1640s to the 1660s, 1630s to 1660s, his pieces are still being put on pieces of paper. The pieces of paper are made today, right? But you're putting an old image onto that piece of paper. That piece is not going to be worth as much as the Rembrandt print from that same plate that's been impressed and printed onto the piece of paper from 1642. I hope that makes sense. So there is a difference in the piece of paper, yes. Good question. See, these questions are helping everybody. Good questions. So I'm Dr. Lori. This is Ask Dr. Lori Live. It's great to be with all of you. So we've been having a lot of fun. I appreciate the questions. A lot going on here. Always busy. What else did I do? Well, after I did a little house cleaning, which I hate house cleaning. I did a little house cleaning around the offices, and I don't like doing it there either. I thought maybe if it was the office, I'd feel better, like, oh, yay. You know, I don't know if you guys do that. Do you do that? Ever heard of an artist named Rad Pesserol, who made ink pen drawings of Austrian places like Salzburg Castle? Not sure of the spelling of his name. Best I could make out. Well, here's a couple things that'll help you, Dennis, and it'll help everybody else. First of all, if you are trying to understand and read the name, which you can't make out, on a print, on a painting, on a sculpture, on anything, I want you to do one of two things. You can take a piece of paper over a bronze sculpture and you actually do that pencil thing and the whole name will come up. You know, you put a piece of paper and then you put graphite over it like the side of a pencil, and then all of a sudden the name will emerge. That's good for sculptures for the most part. Bronze usually. Don't do that on a piece of marble. But if you're looking at a print or a painting and you can't figure it out, I've told you this many times, I'll tell you again, try to write it down, try to mimic that actual thing. Now, somebody told me what that's called in your brain, but basically your hand and your brain are talking to one another and you're able to figure out what the letter forms are as you write it. So you could try that if you can't make the name out, or you can send me a picture and I'll be able to help you. A pen and ink drawing or an ink and pencil drawing, typically what you're going to see, I want to make sure that it is in fact a drawing rather than a print, an etching, an engraving, a lithograph. So they're different and they look different. You can get the loop and you can see. When you see a pencil drawing, you're going to actually see the little bits of graphite that are left onto the paper. If you're looking at through the loop, if you look through the loop. And those of you who don't know how to look through the loop, I'm going to do a video about that because you guys are some of you are saying you're having trouble. Turn on the light is the first thing you got to do. That's why I wanted to get you a loop with a light. So basically, the other thing that I want you to think about with respect to these is that each print will look a little bit different through the loop, but they're similar in what you're looking for. So you might be looking for consistent dots. You might be looking for large brush strokes. With an ink pen, you're going to look for an ink skip, right? The ink starts and goes. But again, these videos are chock full of information. So a lot of you are going, okay, well, I know all about that, so I'm going to go ahead in the video. This chock full of information. A lot of you misinformation because you basically think that I'm not going to say something important when I'm giving you all kinds of bits as we go through. Thank you very much, Ashley. That's very nice of you. I hope it was helpful. Oh, a crocheter. I love to crochet. Where's the best place to sell a valuable book that you appraised? There's a lot of good places. How much does it devalue a first edition signed book if someone put their own name and address in it? Thank you. You're welcome. Well, if I appraised it and I gave you a written document, I probably showed you sales records where similar pieces have sold. You could start there. You could also say, okay, I want to sell this piece to the end user. I want to sell this piece to that collector, or I want to sell this piece, to someone in the middle, maybe through an auction, maybe through, somebody else who's going to resell it for you. It's never a good idea to write any kind of information in a book, other than if you're the author and you're signing, of course, an autograph, you're signing the book, then it's okay. But, having your name and address, not a great thing. Is it terrible? Should you erase it? No, leave well enough alone. Don't try to rip out the page. Don't try to erase the information. Don't try to put white out over it. Don't do any of that. Leave it alone. It's there. It's there. Best places to sell books. A lot of people like to sell books on particular websites. They like to sell it on websites like, iLibris or A-Books or other websites. But I want you to remember, if you have an appraisal, the appraised value is going to show you the analysis of the whole market, not just, an eBay listing or another listing where the book could be sold. The other thing about first editions is first editions really are sought after. People like them. And it needs to be in good shape. You remember what I always say, open that book, take a whiff. If you can smell it, you probably can't sell it. So nice. So, but don't erase the address and the name. Leave well enough alone. You could do more damage than it's worth. So thank you very much for your super chat and super sticker too. Dina wants me to download my brain into a flash drive. I remember one guy at an event said, Dr. Lori's faster than Google. only in this category, not for everything. Yeah, that's funny. That is funny. I don't know a lot about a lot of things. I know what I know. I love what I love. That's how it goes. You're funny. But thank you very much for supporting the channel. I appreciate that. And I appreciate all of you who love objects, and it helps us learn about the people who made these objects through history. So I think it's fun and cool, just like you guys. Looking forward to my class. Thanks for all the valuable information, Dr. Lee. You're welcome. You're welcome. The class is so much fun. The class is 2 hours. We do it through Zoom. Everybody pops in. They have their objects. We talk about different things. I usually spend too long answering questions, and it's really very, very informal, and people like it. I had a lovely couple today on a video call who said, Dr. Lori, who knew you were fun? I'm like, I think you should all know I'm fun. But yeah. Wonderful thing. She was trying to figure out she was trying to help him figure out what her anniversary gift was going to be. I won't get too far into it, but I thought they were very, very sweet. They were really trying to get the other one a good anniversary gift. It was very sweet. But yeah, the classes are fun. They're very easy to schedule. You can schedule them online. You can set a save to calendar. So the day of the class, when you're running around busy, you go, oh, I got Dr. Lori's class tonight. You'll know that. You can do that and save to calendar. We made all those special things on the website just for you guys. So go to appearances, and at the bottom, that's the event schedule, and you can see all the dates. Now, The next class is sold out, so there's no more room in the next class. But then there is another class coming up that isn't yet sold out, so you can get your spot there. Get your spot early, and the way I do it is the people who signed up first, they get addressed first in the class. They get their appraisal first in the class. Most of my class people, they stay the whole time. They have a good time. It's fun. It's framed. Couldn't even see with the loop. How do I send you pictures? Oh my gosh, Dennis, what's the problem? Get a camera, Dennis, and take a picture. And make sure if it's under glass that you don't give me a big glare in the picture, right? I need a picture of the entire front, the entire back, and a close-up of that, of that thing that you can't see, of that signature that you can't see. Give me a close-up of that. If there's any other writing, or if there are numbers like a fraction, or if there's, so-and-so pinxed it, so-and-so sculpted it, those kind of terms in Latin, give me that too. Show me those. But 3 pictures, entire front, entire back, and I mean entire. Don't cut it off, don't go, that's enough of it. She can see enough of it. I need to see the whole piece, right? Front, back, and a close-up of that signature. I will help you. Make sure you don't give me glare. Thank you very much, Lori. I love that you loved it. It was a lot of fun. I had a great time. My favorite European country. Oh, I'm so bad. You know me. It's Italy. I love Italy. I do also love Denmark. I love the Faroe Islands. They were beautiful. I do also love Great Britain. I do also love, oh my gosh, I'm going to go through all of them. I love Germany. I enjoy Berlin very much. Let me think where else. I had a wonderful time in St. Petersburg, not really, getting into the European. What other European countries can I think of that I like? I love France. I've not been to France enough. I really need to go back and enjoy more of France. I had a wonderful time in the Riviera and of course Paris many times, but I should get back to France more. I'm trying to think of my other favorites. Portugal was fun. I had fun in Porto. And Spain. I spent time in Spain for a long time. Yeah, Madrid. I lived in London. I'm trying to think of other European countries that I like. I like Scandinavia very much. I've been to Scandinavia many times. Norway was beautiful, just beautiful. Yeah, a lot of places. Finland was fun. Helsinki was fun. Helsinki reminded me of Boston because everybody's walking around in the summer and they're just eating ice cream. They were fun. Open markets and stuff. That was a fun place too. But wonderful. I love Europe very much. I loved Australia and New Zealand. I was able to travel there. I've been, I can say, knock on wood, I was lucky. Well-traveled, seen a lot of places and enjoyed them. I visited some of the world's greatest art. I love Tokyo. Tokyo was tremendous city. So, hey, travel is the best education. After, maybe I'm second to travel as the best education, this channel. But no, all kidding aside, travel is the best education. And if you can afford to go, even if you can't afford to go, you know what? Go. Try to take your kids or expose them to that. The internet will help you do that. TV did that for my generation. We're always looking at TV kind of thing. Did you go to Monet's house? Well, I will tell you, Giverny is wonderful. And the time I was supposed to go, there was a problem and I was not at Giverny, but I will get back there. That's what I mean about France. There's a lot of things on that checklist of mine that I didn't get to in France for the most part, but I will get back there. I have to say a lot of people have had that experience at Giverny to see, of course, the pink house and, of course, the water lilies and such. Run away with me, dearly. Susan, I'm there. I am there. I am packed now. Let's go. I'll go with you. I love Amalfi very much. Portofino and Sorrento. It's a wonderful part. You can't beat Rome. And the pizza's just better. I'm sorry. It's just better. I went with a friend a long, long time ago. I took students to Europe a long, long time ago. Switzerland was fun too. Lucerne was beautiful. And it was very funny because I said, we're going to eat souffle. And, he said to me, souffle, what is that? And I said, oh, you'll like it. You'll like it. And, of course, you all know, maybe you may not know cow brains. So, a delicacy in Italy, but, I wasn't going to tell that story. I thought I'm going to see if he eats it. So it was kind of fun. I'm sorry, I missed a question. I was yapping here. So reselling business is skyrocketing. Yeah, I believe this is a major time in history. Do you think it's best to sell vintage and antiques now or wait it out on focusing sourcing things are selling so cheap? Okay, well, what's the numbers? I want to think about the numbers. I talked about this in one of my videos about the numbers. And what I mean by that is into the billions is what this is going to be. The reselling, the vintage and the reselling business, the thrifting business going into, the 85, 87 billion $6 mark, you know. So a lot of people are sourcing. I always think if you can do both, you're going to do better. So when you got an opportunity to get that bargain, you got to scoop it up. And of course, selling, you got to sell when people are ready to, of course, be buying, right? So you have to think about what other things are happening in the economy at that time, right? So if people are spending a whole lot on gasoline, for example, are they going to want to spend a whole lot on a watch or a piece of jewelry or something like that? But I would say that, you know, you've got to make sure when you get an opportunity to get the bargains, get them. And you have to know what the bargains are, which is what I'm all about, so you can understand what the bargains are. This is why all of these videos are how to tell. So people say, oh, it's Ask Dr. Lori Live, and I don't really care about seeing that person's paperweight. Well, guess what? That whole video is all about how to tell all different objects. So you got to watch them, and you got to share them, because you're going to be able to, in fact, identify what's what. That's what everybody's doing who's succeeding. And so many people are watching my Real Bargains videos and saying, yeah, you know what? I'm learning from the people who had Real Bargains, because I saw a piece like that Dr. Lori featured on Real Bargains, and I know where one is, and I can go get it. So yeah, I would say that when it comes to it, remember there's certain times of the year when people buy more, right? And also I want you to think about sourcing is a bargain. Whenever there's a bargain, you got to get it at that time. So strike while the iron's hot when it comes to sourcing. When it comes to selling, you've got to know your niche market. You've got to know where to sell certain things. It's not the same. You don't buy, ladies' shoes at the bakery. You got to know where to actually buy, where the people are ready to buy certain things. So that's important too. I'll help you with that. Yeah, good questions. Good questions. So what else have we got? We've got some great questions from all over. It's nice to see all of your comments too. I'd like to collect bud vases. Any suggestions? Bud vases. Yeah, I like white milk glass bud vases. If you're collecting them for yourself, sure, you should buy what you like, but I want you to like quality, right? The old saying, just as easy to fall in love with a rich man as it is to fall in love with a poor one. Let's like quality, assuming that the rich man is quality, okay? So that's one thing. So you want to identify quality. So if you're saying bud vases in general, then I would say, sure, you want to look for crystal, or you want to look for certain ceramics, or you want to look for certain makers. Yeah. If you're thinking, I want to collect bud vases so I can resell them, then there are certain bud vases that you shouldn't pass by, because certain bud vases sell very well always, like white milk glass, which I've suggested prior in a different video. But if you're just saying, I just want to collect them for myself because I want to see them on a shelf and I love them, then, you might say, oh, I want to collect bud vases made by one of the manufacturers of iridescent glass or carnival glass, because in a window they'll sparkle beautifully. Or I want, uranium glass or Vaseline glass by, one of those makers, kind of thing. It depends. Oh, well, I'm sorry. So you answered to sell. Iridescent glass or carnival glass bud vases, white milk glass vases, any of the art pottery or art ceramic pieces by manufacturers like Moorcroft or Van Briggle, or any of those guys, I would say. So any of those will do fine. But if you're going to be reselling, make sure that you're reselling these bud vases and make sure you've got a good name on them. That's a brand, right? So if it's McCoy or if it's something else. Yeah. Oh my gosh, Dennis is back. Color me dumb, but do I upload pics to you through your website? Dennis, go to the website. There's a whole big thing at the top. And one of them is going to be find values. Click on that. Click with your mouse. Click, right? Click, hit with your phone, right? Find values. It's right there. It's the one with like a magnifying glass with the dollar sign. Find values. Then after you find values, you click on that. It's going to say send a photo. Send a photo. Click on that. Then it's going to give you instructions. Remember instructions, Dennis? Instructions are you're going to read and follow directions. And then they're going to have you upload those 3 pictures and fill out that form. And don't tell me you don't know how big something is and you can't measure it in inches. Go get the measuring tape and measure it in inches, because I need to know how big the thing is. Thank you, Dennis. Jeez Louise. Had a great time in a video call today. Hi, Rebecca. Yeah, Rebecca was with her girls. She was cute. She was in a beauty salon, and she actually brought her object that she wanted me to praise for the video call at her, I'm guessing her daughter's, maybe it was her daughter-in-law's beauty salon. It was fun. She said, I didn't want to miss the opportunity to see, of course, my family, but I didn't want to miss the video call too. So, hey, it was a party. That was good. It was a lot of fun. So. Thank you, Rebecca. I'm glad that we got to figure out what your piece was. It was a vase and it had these little frogs on it. It was kind of cool. Yeah, we figured it out. Binge watching. Gina Marie's binge watching. My hometown is New Haven. There you go. Pepe's or Sally's? That's what I want to know. Pepe's or Sally's Pizza, the hometown of New Haven. Yes, I hope I do seem familiar to you. I love New Haven very much. I love my home state. I've been to all the states except 5. So I've got 5 more to go. I've got to get to Idaho, North Dakota, Wyoming, Montana, and Hawaii. But I got an invitation to Hawaii, and I might just take them up on it. I really want to go to Hawaii. I haven't been, but I will be. Those other 5 I got to get to. Everyone else I've been. And but yeah, New Haven is a lovely, fun place. And I was at the Yale Art Gallery for a time, and I loved my work there. And yeah, it's a great town. If you don't have a chance, if you get a chance, go to New Haven. Spend some time in Connecticut. Green diamond, what's the 411? I don't know what you mean. What does green diamond, what's the 411 mean? I guess that means what's the information on green diamond? I'm sorry, Don. I'm sorry to make you have to actually type, but you got to type an actual question that's a little bit more in depth for me. Maybe, since we took a couple of your questions, I can answer that one maybe a little later on another one. So, but I'm trying to figure out what you're talking about. There are a lot of gemstones, maybe this is what you're talking about, that are different colors that you don't expect. For example, garnets are not only red. A lot of people will say, oh, it's a garnet, it has to be red. Well, they're not only red. One of the museums I worked in, and actually one of the museums I worked in had a gem collection, right? So all the little kids, I was the education curator, and all the little kids would actually come and look at the gems and learn about rocks, because kids love rocks. So that was fun. But I also had the good fortune to meet the gentleman who wrote the book on, his name is Richard Curran, former, of course, head of the Smithsonian, who wrote a book on the Hope Diamond. Fascinating book on the Hope Diamond. So we traveled together. He was a really interesting and nice guy, good friend. So anyway, head of the Smithsonian, not anymore, but was. I thought I saw a question. Maybe I didn't. I don't know. I'm not really too sure. But what I am is sure that I love all of you. It's nice to be with all of you. I'm Dr. Lori. I hope you enjoyed Ask Dr. Lori Live. See you next time.